Carlson, tonight, it was just last week that we noticed that parts of the transgender movement seem to be getting militant and possibly dangerous. We did a whole segment about it on Thursday night. That segment was sparred by an NPR segment we had heard and never expected to hear. NPR has always, as a matter of editorial policy, completely opposed the civilian ownership of firearms, with the possible exception of maybe IRS agents. Yet here suddenly was that very same station, National Public Radio, positively urging trans people to buy guns, as many guns as possible, and if necessary, to use them. The world is dangerous, explained one trans gun owner. You have to be dangerous back. And that seems strange to us. Is the United States really a dangerous place for trans people? Well, West Baltimore is dangerous. You could easily get murdered there. But if you're trans in this country, obviously there are many downsides, but there do appear to be some benefits. It's a lot easier to get into Harvard, for example. It's definitely easier to get a job at Citibank or in the Biden White House. If you're transgender can so much as fly a kite, the Pentagon will happily make you an F-35 pilot, just so Hollywood can make a movie about it. Identifying as trans, whatever, again, its downsides, does convey status in this country, which is why so many young people now do. Not a lot of 19-year-olds are pretending to be car mechanics or linemen for a regional power company in eastern Ohio, but plenty of college freshmen do pretend to be members of the opposite sex, and why wouldn't they? The people in charge despise working-class whites, but they venerate the trans community. People are just responding to incentives. It's rational in a way. But that does not explain the anger that we heard in that NPR segment. Why are some trans people so angry, and why do they seem to be mad specifically at traditional Christians? We can't think of any trans person who's ever been murdered by a pastor. As far as we know, that has never happened. So it's not an actual threat of violence from Christians that's inspiring some trans people to buy AR-15s. No, it's got to be more fundamental than that. And it is. The trans movement is the mirror image of Christianity, and therefore its natural enemy. In Christianity, the price of admission is admitting that you're not God. Christians openly concede that they have no real power over anything, and for that matter, very little personal virtue. They will tell you to your face that they are sinful and helpless and basically absurd. They're not embarrassed about any of this. They brag about it. That saved a wretch like me, goes the most famous Christian hymn ever written in English. The trans movement takes the opposite view. Trans ideology claims dominion over nature itself. We can change the identity we were born with, they will tell you with wild-eyed certainty. Christians can never agree with this statement because these are powers they believe God alone possesses. That unwillingness to agree, that failure to acknowledge a trans person's dominion over nature, incites and enrages some in the trans community. People who believe they're God can't stand to be reminded that they're not. So Christianity and transgender orthodoxy are wholly incompatible theologies. They can never be reconciled. They are on a collision course with each other. One side is likely to draw blood before the other side. That's what we concluded last week. Yesterday morning, tragically, our fears were confirmed. A self-identified trans person called Audrey Hale committed mass murder at a Christian school in Nashville. Hale burst into a place called the Convent School and executed 3 9-year-olds as well as 3 adults. Police have released body cam footage from the end of the massacre. We're showing you just a small part of it. You can see the rest online if you want. We're not going to show it because that's too awful and sad. But what was almost as sickening to see in a far more subtle and insidious way was the media coverage of yesterday's tragedy. Here's Terry Moran of ABC News, for example, suggesting that Christians were murdered in Tennessee because they infringed on the rights of transgendered people. Watch.
Audrey Hale identified herself as a transgender person. The state of Tennessee earlier this month passed and the governor signed a bill that banned transgender medical care for minors, as well as a law that prohibited adult entertainment, including male and female impersonators, after a series of drag show controversies in that state.
The state of Tennessee bans the sexual mutilation of children. Children get shot to death in a school. It's cause and effect. That's what ABC News is telling you. That's not far from justifying mass murder, but others took the next step. A group called the Trans Resistance Network said that the shooter's death was a complex tragedy that resulted from, quote, anti-trans bias. The Hershey Chocolate Company's new trans spokesman, meanwhile, someone called Faye Johnstone, posted messages after the shooting complaining about, quote, trans misogyny.
All right, Shalom. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Makakadash. Double honor to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutation to all the brothers and a few sisters out there. Unto the Israelite foreigners from the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Shalom in the Hebrew, which means peace. It's going to be a quick show to the spirit of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua. Shalom, you brothers be edified. This is a couple days old. I was going to do a show on it, but time consumption and things I was doing. But this was a fascinating thing. I'm going to put the video in the beginning, Lord willing. But basically, everything that we've been saying for the umpteenth years is coming to fruition. And that is, wicked has sprung up and they making a move. So according to what he said, pretty much it was a transformer that went out through that shooting. And when the transformer did that shooting, the police, everything, they didn't want it to be publicly known for what reason it was. So what they was doing, they was protecting the agenda. See, when the world understand that the people that you're protecting is the evil that you don't really want, then the world will kind of brace for it. Showing this thing of what's going to happen in the near future, and real near future, might be this week. Who knows? But the things that's going to happen is going to be every man for himself. All right, and I'm not meaning like in the Royal Rumble, anything like that. I'm meaning that like the scripture says, everything of his like is going to kind of stick together. All right. Matter of fact, let me get that real quick. Oh yeah, next chapter. Go figure. It says, Sirach 13. I believe it's, start at 14. It says, every beast loveth his like, and every man loveth his neighbor. So the wicked are going to stay amongst the wicked. This is why it's spearheaded where the Lord allowed these people to identify themselves. Before, you could have not known who was who, what was what. Well, now it's public to the world to see. All right, who's who and what's what. It says all flesh consort according to kind, and a man will cleave to his like. So that weird community, all right, that walking abomination, they're gonna stick to their own when all hell breaks loose. All right, but it gets deeper. They might even try to go to their own kind. What I mean by their own kind, their own race, because only your own is gonna really protect you. See, this is all sugar, honey, iced tea right now for these people, for everybody. You know, you can do whatever the hell you want to do, however you think you want to do it, and you're protected by law of the land to be the most abominable thing on earth, you know, and you're expecting that same energy, that same protection throughout your whole life, but all that's coming to an end. I was thinking about something real quick. Isaiah 3:9, it says, the show of their countenance do witness against them. They declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. And they're not hiding it. You could go anywhere and you could see these weirdos, all right? These transformers, these carpet munchers, these, you know, all these abominable things, and they flaunting it. All right, within a couple months, we still, if hell hasn't broken loose, the whole month of June is dedicated to that wickedness. All right, so they're not hiding it; they publicly letting it be known. But the thing is, what's going on with those weirdos, I'll say it like that, is that the fact is there's a lot of confliction within themselves. And that confliction is what's in themselves is their conscience is eating them up. See, it was all fun and games where you have to hide and everything like that. Now people expect you to do it, and people taking drastic measures and mutilating themselves to the point where they regret what they're doing. And who you could think for all that? Esau. All right? Esau, the so-called white man. He's the reason for all that shit. It says, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. And that's what they did. So this individual, I'm not going to read the whole thing. Matter of fact, I'm just going to read the headline. This individual that did this, all right, was conflicted in that person's mind. I don't know if it was when he said it, how he said it, I don't even know if that was real or not. But meaning I don't know if it was a man or a woman, who knows? But we know that a lot of them turning out that they conflicted and they bothered within themselves. That's why suicide is so high on that side. All right, that's the reward for doing that. There's no a therapist. Okay, there's no pills to make them feel better. Deep down inside, they know that shit is wicked. That's evil. All right. And it says Tucker Carlson has warned more U.S. anti-Christians violence like transgenders shooters attack on Tennessee. So when you watch the video, let me see if there's a quote that he said that was kind of, yes, that's what it was. This is the quote. It says trans ideology claims dominion over nature itself. Sorry. All right. Carlson said, we can't change the identity we were born with. They will tell you with wild-eyed certainly. Christians can never agree with this because these are two powers they believed the Most High alone possesses. That's the conflict. All right, that's what scripture says. The first thing that came in mind when I saw this was this scripture, because this shows you the inner conflict. All these so-called Christians, that's the spirit right on point. They're wicked. All right, they're straight up wicked, because that's the conflict that you will have. And when we go out there in the highways and byways and say the things that we say with convention and anger, they look at us like we're weird. Like, what the hell is wrong with these people? Because they are part of the problem, not part of the solution. And they know that. It says, this sums it all. Sirach 33:14. Good is set against evil. All right? Good, definition of good is really godly. So godly, what she's going to say, it says, good is set against evil, life against death. So is the godly against the sinner, and the sinner against the godly. All right? And America is nothing but an ungodly land that produced, this is the production. And what they're going to aim to do is going to make it seem that the so-called Christians are the most violent people that's doing all the shooting, but it's the other way around. And they try to throw it under the dust because it gets the agenda. But we could see the conflict at hand, and it's coming to a boil. It's coming to that. I was thinking about it earlier. It's coming to that perfect ending. The movie is almost over. All right, the build is here. When you watch a good flick, there's a build. All right, and you're just waiting for the climax. That's what it is. The climax is about to take place. That climax is what? The destruction of America. But before the ultimate destruction of America, before the curtain is closed, all the wicked things and the wicked people is going to be in conflict with the righteous. All right? Literally, no longer by verbal words, but by deeds, is going to be a final conflict. All right? This is the final conflict. And it says, look upon all the works of the Most High. They are two and two, one against another. All right. So two cannot walk together. At least they agree. And right now, a lot of people are not agreeing with this, and now it's going to come to fruition. They're going to openly disagree with the things that was going on. Okay, because Esau's playing a dirty game, because he's a dirty fella. All right, and that dirtiness is going to lead to this. Revelations 13:15, it says, and he had power to give it the life. He had power to give life unto the image of the beast. It doesn't mean that he take electricity or like a Dr. Frankenstein and find a beast and find a body and jolt it back to life. No, he's the image, which is the Roman Empire. He gave it life again. All right, and a lot of deeds that's being done that we've seen with our own eyes was acceptable in that Roman system. All right. So his ultimate game is to be is to be free of his wickedness in front of everybody and have everybody do the same thing. There was a slogan that they said in Rome: do what the Romans do. And what the Romans were doing, abominable things. But also, one of the main things that the Romans was about is about a new world order system. All right, because under the Roman Empire was every spoken tongue. Okay, and their empire was it was all the Mediterranean. So they had everybody. So it says, it says that the image of the beast shall both speak, which is also part of his democracy. All right, and part of his democracy is feminism. Part of his feminism is what? This weirdo situation. All right, and it says, and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast. So those that did not follow the system, follow the trend, follow what was required of them to maintain themselves in this evil, wicked system, should be killed. All right. So to that extreme level, that if you don't accept certain ideologies that is being pushed, that you should be killed. Okay, and they started with the cancel culture, and now they coming to the physical. Okay, so this is the true the true battle between good and evil. All right. Psalms 94:16, I believe. It said, who shall rise up for me against the evildoers? And that's the question that the Lord asks. All right. Who's going to raise up? Because our job is not to sit there and, what's that word I'm looking for? And just go with the flow. All right. There's wickedness that had to been called out, and through the Spirit of the Lord, the prophets was calling out that wickedness for a long period of time. So now the calling out, because we can't even speak about them openly like how we could before. Those days are becoming numbered through the famine of the word. Guess what's happened next? The destruction. All right, the violence. Talking is over. It says, or who shall stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? So the Lord had raised up certain men to fight against the wickedness all these years. Isaiah, this is what I like doing. Anyway, 13. Oh, yeah, what am I talking about? Isaiah 13:3, it says, I have commanded my sanctified ones, and I have also called my mighty ones. Who's the Lord sanctified? When you look up the word sanctified, it's the Hebrew word kadash. his men. All right, the prophets. That's who the Lord called for this battle. Okay, we're not doing anything. We ain't gonna lift up a hammer. All right, it's just the way things are gonna turn out. That is gonna be a free fall. Every person for themselves. And when the time it gets physical, that's when we're gonna have the right to defend ourselves. Because evil is mounted up. And all they doing is trying to take away the guns from the people. So that way when the people have no rights or can defend themselves, the government and whoever could destroy them. So we living in that time, man. We living in that time when shit's about to go completely right. All right? Because this is the wickedness that's been building up. And the Lord had like he told Elijah, he had 7,000 men that did not bow down the knee to Baal. All right? And that's who? The elect. The elect of the nation of Israel has not bowed down. The elect is going to be the ones who always been the ones that was going against the system. It's not a new thing for brothers to be upset about. All right? Scriptures clearly tell you in Ezekiel 9:4 that the Lord told the angels to put a mark on them that sigh and cry for all the abominations that be done thereof. Okay? So we was already convicted in our minds that this wickedness has to come to an end. So now the manifestation is going to take place. And as always, the wicked is always pushing those buttons. It's going to get to the point where we can't even say or do anything, which is what? The famine of the word. And once the famine of the word takes place, two things got to go. The famine of the word and the right to bear arms. Those two things are synonymous. And once they get rid of the rights to bear arms, they're going to shut down everybody's voice. And once that happens, there's no more talking. It's all action. It says, I have also called my mighty ones from my anger, even them that rejoice in my highness. And the mighty ones is the angels. All right? Because the angels are about to get down on this abomination that's been plaguing the planet Earth for a long period of time. We're in the transitional period of powers, and every transition of kingdoms always lead to violence. All right, always lead to utter violence, not of the citizens of their own, but by the circumstance. When you can't eat or feed yourself because your the way you think is different from the way the world's thinking, you're not gonna look at things the way they want you to look at it. You're gonna do what you gotta do to survive. All right, and that's what it's all gonna lead to. It's gonna lead to 2 Ezra 15. I'm just going to the point. It says 14. It says, woe to the world and to them that dwell therein. For the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. So that's the prophecy. All right? That's the prophecy. This whole concept, God loves everybody, that's a false indication. The true confliction is going to take place, is going to manifest on the earth. Good is going to be set against evil, and evil has been on a high for a long period of time, and the world is now realizing that this is an evil place that we've been living with evil laws and evil people. And it's just like I said, it's just a matter of time. But what is going to cause that is going to be the conditions that's going to force people's hands. That's going to force people out of their character. All right? It says, for there shall be sedition among men. And one thing I got to say, the people should have been lost in when they was targeting children. All right, when it was targeting people's kids, people should have been lost it. That should have been front line news. All right, you send your child to school, they're being indoctrinated for some wickedness. But this is a wicked society. They accept everything. So the law is everything is gonna happen like they plotting right now. It's called a polio crisis, which means all around crisis. Take away the guns, forcing people to straight up worship Satan. You know, all sorts of madness is at play all at once. And whether people like it or not, it's coming. Is that a thing where you can hide from? Not a thing for where you can, what's the word I'm looking for? Let things pass, because the things that you let pass, and look at the madness that's happening. All right, this law is about to force everybody's hand. It says, "For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their own power." Meaning, for whatever reasons, they're gonna want to do what they're gonna do. It's gonna be a lawless society, man. People about to lose it, and it might be that whole Trump thing, which is gonna be false, but it's gonna be a whole bunch of things all at once where people are just gonna lose it. It says a man should desire to go into a city, which is now I think about it, it's twofold. Martial law, that's one strong possibility, and also the 15-minute cities. All right, you're going to be limited of where you're going to go. It says it should not be able, so you're going to be restricted for wherever you're going. It says, "For because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, and their houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid." So the whole cause of it is because of the pride. A man think he's more than his creator, which that leads to ultimate pride, which that leads to your death and your destruction. It says, "A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with their sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, famine, and great tribulation." Which great tribulation is troubling times. So troubling times is caused by the political aspect of things, also by a whole bunch of other things. People about to lose their money. They're about to lose their freedom. They're about to lose their voice. They're about to lose it all. That's part of that great tribulation. Okay? And because of all these things that's going to add up, people are going to lose it. Which is the manifestation of what? What the Lord promised is going to happen. Okay? And that is what? The destruction of Babylon the Great. No more this false indication of smiling and let bygones be bygones. People are going to take matters into their own hand. And that's what the elites want. And that's what the Lord is pushing. Okay? Because that thing is about to spew out. And that's just on the left-hand side of them doing things to push these people into the corner. So ultimately what's going to end up happening is these so-called Christians are going to be left with no other choice but to fight back. And then the media could spin out how Christians are the most violent people on the planet Earth. So, hey, keep your eyes sharp, because, hey, we're not ignorant of Satan's devices. So with that being said, I'm starting real quick through the Spirit. Shalom to the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.